In ancient Indian history, there is an important event which occurred in India and which had huge consequences for the history of India thereafter. This event is in the form of Alexandar's Invasion of India, which took place in around 326 BC. Alexander, as you know, he was a great emperor of the world. In the world, he ascended the throne of Macedonia after the death of his father. His name was Philip, in 336 BC. After Alexander consolidated his position at Greece, he set forth to fulfill his ambition of world conquest. He wanted to conquer the entire world, and within 4 years after he became the king of Macedonia, of Greece, within 4 years he was successfully able to conquer the places like Egypt, Persia, Babylon, it's near Baghdad, modern Baghdad, Asia Minor, it's in North Afghanistan. All these kinds of places, within 4 years he brought these places under his invasion. He defeated, his first major victim was Persia, wherein he defeated the king of Persia. His name was Darius III, and that was the Battle of Arbela. Battle of Arbela. In this battle he defeated the Persians, and it provided him the strength, the much needed strength which he tried to utilize for his further world conquest. After the conquest of Persia, he moved towards India and crossed Hindu Kush, that pass through which he entered into Indian subcontinent, that's called as Khyber Pass. He passed through Hindu Kush in 327 BC with a view to conquer the India, to invade India. Why he wanted to invade India? There are various reasons, but above all, his personal ambition that he wanted to conquer the entire world was the main motivating force behind him, that he set upon to conquer India. No doubt, the portions of northwestern parts of India, they were, prior to the invasion of Alexander, they were under the control of Persia, under the control of Achaemenid Empire. It was the Persian Empire. So he wanted to take under his possession those areas which were prior to him under the control of Achaemenid, the Persian Empire. When he defeated the Persian Empire, so he naturally wanted to have those areas as well under his control, which were earlier on under the control of Achaemenids of Persia. So the fabulous wealth of India, which always had remained the cause for the foreign invasions of India, it might be the other cause as well. These causes or the other causes which might be there, he wanted to bring the different principalities, smaller principalities under his control, because he was invited by few of them. When he invaded, when he crossed the Indian subcontinent through this area was comprised of smaller states, very smaller states. Those states were in constant fighting, they were in constant conflict with each other. Among those states, there were some important states, like one such state was the Kingdom of Taxila. Here the ruler was MB, Another important, this kingdom, it was the kingdom of, it was a kingdom which lied between, the rivers Jhelum and Chenab. This kingdom, it was ruled by Porus the elder. There were actually two Poruses, one was the younger and another was the elder. So such type of kingdoms and others, these kingdoms were greatly engaged in warfare against one another, and there was no question that they should unite and face the armies of Alexander. They never, they never tried nor thought about such an alliance against the Alexander. So it became easy for Alexander to think about the invasion of India at that time, because there was no unity. There, he was confident about his victory, because he could easily subdue these smaller states, smaller kingdoms. So when he crossed Hindu Kush in 327 BC, when he crossed Indus river in 326 BC, his main enemy, this Ambi, he surrendered before the armies of Alexander. In fact, he was supported by Ambi from the beginning. Now the only remaining ruler who gave him a tough struggle, tough fight, he was Porus. Porus faced Alexander on the banks of river Jhelum. And the battle which was fought between Alexander and Porus, that battle is known as Battle of Hydaspes. Hydaspes was the old name of Jhelum river. It was Battle of Hydaspes. Battle of Hydaspes in 326 BC, in which Porus was defeated, in which Porus was taken by surprise after Alexander crossed the Jhelum with the help of the boat bridge, and he was taken by surprise, and in that hostile climate, and when the rain was incessant, he was defeated by the armies of Alexander, with ease. Some 12,000 soldiers and many thousands were wounded in this battle of Hydaspes, and this was a battle which was won by Alexander, and it marked the conquest of Alexander by India. If not the entire India, at least these parts were completely conquered by Alexander. But Alexander, he treated this Porus well. He treated him well. It said that when Porus was brought before Alexander, he told him that in which way you wanted to treat it by me. How should I treat you? Then Porus replied that treat me like the king treats the other king. And this, it was accepted by Alexander. And he treated him well. He gave him much respect because of his resistance, because of his self-prestige. He was asked by Alexander early on, before fight he was asked by Alexander to surrender, but he refused. He refused. He was given respect, he was given back the territories which were conquered by Alexander, in addition to the other territories also which were given to him. Alexander gave him few other territories as well. So Alexander, you just switch off your mobile phones, please. Alexander, after crossing this Hydaspes, after defeating Porus, he wanted to move further towards the Magadhan Empire. He now wanted to conquer entire this Indian, at least the North India, and he reached river Beas. He reached near river Beas when he tried to move towards the Magadhan Empire, but he was here faced with a serious problem. Now what was this problem? The problem was created by his own soldiers. They refused to move further. They were tired of the continuous fights which Alexander was fighting against the rival, against the enemies. They were tired. Furthermore, they knew the strength of the Indian ruler at Magad. They knew that he was a powerful ruler, and he was waiting for them with 80,000 strong cavalry and thousands of foot soldiers, thousands of chariots. They were waiting for them. And it is written by historians that This reason motivated them, this reason compelled them to think over, to introspect about the prospects of their conquest of India. They were homesick, his soldiers. Alexander no doubt tried to persuade them. He tried to talk to them. But in vain, all in vain. Nobody accepted his, this request. And he was forced to accept the defeat on part of his own soldiers. The king, who was never defeated by any ruler, was defeated by his own soldiers. And he decided to move back towards his kingdom. He decided to retreat from Bias itself and reached somehow at a place called Babylon near modern Baghdad. When he reached there, his health got deteriorated and he fell ill and died at the age of 33 years only. But by this age, that means by 33 years, he was able to carve out the huge kingdom of in the Asian continent, and he was able to divide, before his death, he was able to divide his kingdom into various governors, into various satrapas, and they were put in place under the charge of Greek governors. With his death, some important, the important chapter in the history of world came to an end. He was a great statesman, he was a great general, a military commander. He was leading from the front, and it's because of those reasons he was known as, the Alexander the Great. This Alexander no doubt failed to go deep into India. He failed to carve out any big independent kingdom in India. No doubt he was able to conquer some parts of India, but still there were some important events, consequences of this contact. Because of this contact, two great civilizations, the Greek civilization and the Indian civilization, they came closer to one another. India was benefited by the Greek astronomy. India was benefited by the Greek coinage. Greek was benefited by the Indian philosophy. It was benefited by the Indian religion. So both civilizations benefited from one another. Its best result can be seen in the Gandhara school of art. Gandhara school of art is the best example of the traditions, of the cultural interactions between these two countries, Greece and India. This impact was seen in the art, in the painting, in the buildings, and all kinds of designs. So it's because it was actually although this may seem to you as a small event, but it had a huge consequences. This conquest, this invasion of India by Alexander had the huge consequences. Okay, so this was something about Alexander's invasion in India, and you have to remember this information for your own understanding of the history, as well as for your this exam, for your examination. Okay. Now we have the second important topic. This is in the form of Mauryan Empire.